On the night of February 7, 2014, Samanata Shrestha invited Jessica Michelle Ewing to her apartment for what was supposed to be a simple, quiet dinner. It was just a casual evening between two young women, with nothing unusual expected. However, as the night went on, the mood quickly changed from a bit awkward to tense, and then to something much more unsettling. What started as an evening with minor disagreements over things like cooking soon turned into something far more troubling. Samanata Shrestha was born around 1992 in Nepal. She was the second and youngest child of Dr. Manik Lal Shrestha and his wife, Rajshri Shrestha, who had already welcomed their first daughter, Manisha. When Samanata was 3 years old, her family moved to the United States, settling in Virginia, a place known for its significant immigrant population, especially from South Asia. As Samanata started school, she quickly learned English, though at home, the family continued to speak Nepali. This made her adaptation to her new environment smooth and natural, aided by her sociable nature, intelligence, and curiosity. Over time, she also became fluent in Spanish, Hindi, and American Sign Language. During her high school years, Samanata formed a close-knit group of friends. She enjoyed dancing, playing the guitar, and baking brownies for her loved ones in her spare time. Even then, she dreamed of becoming a doctor. However, the Shrestha family's happy life in Virginia took a tragic turn in 2008. Manisha, the eldest daughter, was 22 and traveling in Nepal when she was involved in a fatal motorcycle accident. This devastating loss profoundly affected Samanata and her parents, but they leaned on each other for support and eventually found the strength to carry on. As time passed, Samanata became more determined than ever to pursue her dreams. After graduating from high school, she volunteered part-time as a paramedic in her community. Simultaneously, she began studying a biology major, with minors in psychology and medicine in society, an aspiring physician at Virginia Tech. Samanata soon became the president of philanthropy at the university and later served as vice president of the fraternity focused on community service and volunteer opportunities. Her kind nature and ability to make everyone feel included helped her expand her social circle within this community. Despite her busy schedule, Samanata always made time to stay in touch with her old high school friends. In 2012, she met Scott, who was about to graduate from Virginia Tech. Scott was immediately smitten, later confessing that he knew Samanata was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen from their first meeting. After 3 months of dating, during the 2013 spring break, Scott bought Samanata a small gift, a turtle made of seashells with a blue hat and sunglasses, during a day trip to Virginia Village. It was a sweet and funny gesture that Samanata loved, and she kept the turtle by her bedside as a reminder of their happy romance. By then, Scott had enrolled in law school at another local university, showing that he had solid plans for his future and sincere intentions with Samanata. Their relationship was going so well that they introduced each other to their families, who approved of the relationship and wished them happiness. The young couple was so joyful that they even talked about getting married. In the fall of 2013, while waiting for one of her classes, Samanata had a brief but pleasant conversation with another student named Jessica Michelle Ewing. Jessica grew up in a conservative Baptist family in the small town of Easton, Maryland, where she was raised with traditional values. She later revealed that she had suffered abuse during her childhood at the hands of a family friend. Despite this trauma, Jessica managed to navigate her teenage years like many girls her age, even becoming a Girl Scout and playing in her high school's band thanks to her talent with the trombone and other instruments. She also participated in missionary trips to far-off places like Turkey and Mexico. However, beneath these positive aspects of her life, Jessica struggled internally with the conservative and restrictive environment of her family and community. One of Jessica's closest friends explained that Jessica struggled with her sexual identity during her teenage years. She found herself attracted to girls rather than boys, which caused her significant anxiety, fearing rejection from her family and community. Jessica was known for her loyalty, especially when it came to defending her friends. In high school, when malicious rumors targeted one of her best friends, Jessica fiercely stood up for her, demonstrating her protective nature. Jessica also had a close relationship with her sister, always generous with her time and support. Another defining trait of Jessica was her high expectations for herself, which drove her to pursue a double major in fisheries science and biological sciences at Virginia Tech, where she also joined the Corps of Cadets. In 2012, Jessica's love for animals led her to break campus rules by secretly keeping various pets in her dorm room, including snakes, spiders, a rabbit, a lizard, and a large salamander. When she learned that campus authorities were investigating, she hid the animals in a steam tunnel, trying to keep them warm until she could find them a permanent home. However, this violation resulted in community service as punishment. Jessica was also passionate about sparring, a form of combat training, where her skill earned her the title of the strongest woman in her group. Despite her dedication to physical training, she remained committed to her faith, regularly attending Bible study sessions. Jessica also shared a unique and somewhat ambiguous bond with Michael, a young man from her neighborhood who had never attended college. Their relationship was more than a simple friendship, but didn't quite reach the level of a romantic relationship. In the spring of 2013, during a university party, Jessica was approached by a stranger who gave her illicit substances, leading to her being sexually assaulted. Around the same time, she was expelled from the Corps of Cadets after being accused of hazing another student during a physical training routine. These events plunged her into a deep depression. By the time she met Samanata Shrestha, Jessica had lost much of her interest in her studies. However, she chose not to discuss these traumatic events with her family, preferring to confide in a friend and the university's counseling center. On the day she met Samanata, they struck up a conversation while waiting for class, discussing The Lion King, which was Jessica's favorite movie, but one that Samanata had never seen. They made plans to watch it together, and Jessica immediately felt a strong attraction to Samanata, who was kind and had striking features. For Jessica, this brief encounter was significant, though for Samanata, it seemed to be a friendly exchange with the potential of making a new friend. Despite her relationship with Scott, Samanata was experiencing a curiosity about kissing someone of the same sex. Feeling comfortable with Scott's non-judgmental nature, she was honest with him about her feelings. A few weeks later, when Jessica and Samanata finally met again, they shared a kiss. Jessica later described this moment in her personal diary as a first date, though she struggled with her feelings and couldn't openly discuss her attraction to Samanata with anyone except her therapist at the local counseling center. In December 2013, Jessica was prescribed antidepressants, and during the New Year's Eve party that year, one of her friends saw her smiling and enjoying herself as she had in the past. Jessica told her that she felt freer, as if she had returned to normal, and was hopeful that the new year would bring a fresh start. However, in January 2014, Jessica, perhaps overly confident in her newfound happiness, stopped taking her prescribed medication. According to Scott, Samanata and Jessica kissed at least twice more, but for Samanata, it was nothing more than curiosity. Meanwhile, early in 2014, Samanata received the most exciting news of her life. She had been accepted into the medical school at Pennsylvania State University. On Monday, February 3, 2014, Samanata invited Jessica to have dinner at her apartment on Friday, February 7th, to which Jessica eagerly agreed. Samanata mentioned the plan to Scott during one of their daily conversations, treating it as just another routine activity since, for her and Scott, it wasn't a big deal. However, Jessica felt the opposite. As the week progressed, anticipation and anxiety overwhelmed her as she looked forward to Friday. The emotional turmoil was so intense that, in the early hours of Thursday, just 24 hours before the dinner, Jessica texted her friend Erica, sharing her mixed feelings. She was excited but also worried, feeling like she might be betraying her connection with Michael. As Friday night, February 7, 2014, approached, Samanata spoke with her parents. At the same time, Jessica was eagerly preparing for the evening. She took longer than usual to pick out the perfect dress, and once ready, drove to Samanata's apartment, carrying a bottle of wine and a can of whipped cream. She arrived an hour late, and when Samanata opened the door, Jessica felt a pang of disappointment seeing her host dressed in yoga pants and a sports shirt. Unable to hide her displeasure, Jessica complained. In response, Samanata decided to change into a dress, and despite the rocky start, they both tried to salvage the evening and lighten the mood. However, as they began to prepare dinner, they argued over the proper way to chop the peppers, further adding to the awkwardness. The tension between them was palpable. What happened next remains unclear, and only one of them lived to tell the tale. Jessica has staunchly defended her version of events, claiming that after dinner, once things had calmed down, they built a fort with blankets and had a playful whipped cream fight. The prosecutor, however, presented a different narrative. He argued that when Samanata refused Jessica's advances, Jessica's frustration turned into anger. According to the prosecutor, Samanata's rejection led to Jessica's fury, which eventually escalated. What is known for certain is that throughout the evening, Samanata sent several messages to her boyfriend Scott, but shortly after midnight, she suddenly stopped texting him. She didn't even send her usual goodnight message. Jessica claimed that after everything, as they lay next to each other in bed, the mood soured again when she accused Samanata of being spoiled and living a luxurious life thanks to her parents' wealth. According to Jessica, Samanata responded by saying they were just experimenting and that she was nothing more than a pastime. Jessica admitted that this comment hurt her deeply. The prosecution highlighted this moment as evidence supporting their theory that Samanata resisted Jessica's advances. They argued that if the conflict had been about Samanata being spoiled, her response wouldn't have revolved around the insignificance of a few kisses. In a fit of rage, Jessica allegedly attacked Samanata, using a wrestling move she knew, ultimately leading to Samanata's death. Meanwhile, Scott became alarmed when he didn't receive a goodnight message from Samanata. He called and texted her multiple times, but his efforts were in vain. Meanwhile, Jessica placed Samanata's body in a sleeping bag, loaded it into Samanata's car, and decided to flee. Since her own car had been towed earlier, she walked home and, at 7 a.m., called Erica, a friend. Although Erica was unaware of what had happened, she detected a note of desperation and fear in Jessica's voice and invited her over for breakfast. About an hour and a half later, Jessica and Erica met. Around the same time, worried about their daughter's absence, Samanata's parents reported her missing to the police. After breakfast, Erica drove Jessica to pick up her car, and then they parted ways. Alone, Jessica spent the next few hours trying to figure out how to dispose of the body and any other evidence. Unsure of what to do, she met up with Erica again that afternoon. Jessica confessed to Erica what she had done. Trembling and unable to fully process the shocking revelation, Erica urged Jessica to call her mother. On the other end of the line, Jessica's mother could only hear her daughter's frantic and incoherent screams until Erica took the phone to explain the situation. As night fell, she contacted a friend, asking him to come to her apartment and take some books from her library, specifically those related to tarot and the occult. Strangely, she also asked him to remove a collection of Shakespeare's works, fearing it might make her appear suspicious. After her friend complied, Jessica recounted the events in broad strokes. She asked for his help in burning the body, but this request was far beyond what her friend was willing to do for their friendship. When he refused, Jessica was overcome with a sense of betrayal, which she noted in the journal she almost always carried with her, writing that her best friend had failed her. Jessica then retrieved Samanata's Mercedes-Benz and, with the body still in the back seat, drove it to a location where she abandoned the car, though not too far away. At the end of the day, she jotted down some disjointed thoughts in her journal, reflecting on the possible fatal consequences of her actions. At that time, it wasn't unusual for a student to be reported missing, so the authorities had not yet classified Samanata's disappearance as a criminal case. However, everything changed on the morning of Sunday, February 9, 2014. That day, Jessica showed up at the police station, accompanied by her mother and a lawyer. After refusing to speak on the lawyer's advice, they left without giving any explanations, raising the police's suspicions. By late Sunday, a team of officers searched Samanata's apartment and found evidence of a struggle, as well as some missing items. A few hours later, Jessica was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. In her car, police found the missing items from Samanata's apartment, including her wallet, the bag she used for medical emergencies, a statue of Ganesh, and a photograph of her with her boyfriend. On Monday, February 10, 2014, the police finally located Samanata's car, and inside, they found her lifeless body. She was still wearing the dress she had put on for the evening, as requested by her attacker. When her parents identified her, they realized that the pain of losing Manisha paled in comparison to this new grief. This time, they lacked the presence and courage of their younger daughter to help them through the tragedy. That same Monday, Jessica's best friend was also arrested, charged with aiding in the concealment of the body. Both he and Jessica were held without bail. As news of the case continued to emerge, the student body and local community were left in shock, struggling to comprehend what dark motives could have driven the alleged perpetrators to take the life of a young woman with such a promising future. The University of Virginia provided professional counseling services to students who needed help coping with the loss of their classmate. Samanata's sorority held a vigil in her honor. In an effort to honor Samanata's memory in a way she would have appreciated, her friends established a fund to raise money for the clinic where she had volunteered. In the weeks that followed, law enforcement officers worked tirelessly to gather new evidence that would ensure the suspected culprits were brought to trial. As part of these efforts, they searched Jessica's friend's apartment, where they discovered Jessica's diary. While neither her friend nor Erica faced charges, it was this diary that ultimately strengthened the prosecution's case. The trial against Jessica was initially expected to take place in February 2015. However, as the date approached, after lengthy discussions with her defense attorney, Jessica entered a guilty plea to first-degree murder through an Alford plea. The Alford plea allows an accused person to acknowledge that the prosecution has sufficient evidence to prove their guilt beyond a reasonable doubt while maintaining their innocence. By pleading this way, the defendant accepts a conviction to avoid the risk of a harsher sentence that could result from going to trial. The Montgomery County prosecutor recommended a life sentence for Jessica. Shortly afterward, Jessica's friend was found guilty and sentenced to 1 year in prison for his complicity in the crime against Samanata. However, his sentence was suspended. Jessica's sentencing hearing took place on June 1, 2015, at the Montgomery County Circuit Court in Virginia. Wearing an orange jumpsuit, her wrists and ankles shackled, and chains around her waist, Jessica entered the courtroom, her dark hair firmly tied back in a side braid that ended at the nape of her neck. The vibrant young woman who had once envisioned a bright future was now a distant memory. Behind her dark-framed glasses, Jessica's eyes avoided contact with her mother and sister. For the most part, she remained impassive, but there were moments when her face contorted as if she were about to cry. When Scott testified that he had meant nothing to Samanata, Jessica looked down and grimaced as if in physical pain. At the end of his testimony, Scott admitted that he was tormented by the thought that he had failed to protect his girlfriend. When it was Samanata's mother's turn to speak, she accused Jessica of sitting at her daughter's table knowing all along that she planned to kill her. In response, Jessica defended herself, insisting that there had never been such a plan and that she and Samanata had been secretly dating. The defense called several witnesses to testify about Jessica's character and mental state, including 2 of her therapists, a former professor, and her mother, who not only testified on her behalf but also extended condolences to Samanata's family. Finally, Jessica herself took the stand. In the tense courtroom filled with members of both families, Jessica expressed remorse and apologized several times to the Samanata's family, her voice weak, trembling, and at times confused. She even said that Samanata had been an incredible person. During her testimony, which her attorney carefully elicited, Jessica described a fragile mental state that led her to lose control the night of the attack. In a particularly chilling moment, she said that loyalty was important to her in friendship. When her attorney asked if she would help dispose of a body if a friend asked her to, she replied that she would. According to sentencing guidelines, the use of a weapon could have influenced the length of Jessica's prison term. However, after a lengthy 8-hour session, the judge stated that the issue of whether a weapon or manual force was used did not affect his decision. Instead, he emphasized that what happened afterward, particularly the hatred and rage evident in Jessica's diary entries, was the determining factor in his ruling. After these clarifications, the judge sentenced Jessica to 80 years in prison for the murder of Samanata Shrestha, plus an additional 5 years for transporting and concealing her body. According to the judge's ruling, after serving 45 years, the remainder of the sentence could be suspended. However, if released, Jessica would have to serve 20 years of probation. Jessica's mother burst into tears, while the defeated defense attorney looked down and began gathering his papers. Meanwhile, Samanata's loved ones embraced each other, tears of relief and sorrow marking the end of a long and painful journey toward justice. Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.